Scotland is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. Covering the northern third of the island of Great Britain, mainland Scotland has a 96-mile, 154-kilometre, border with England to the southeast and is otherwise surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean to the north and west, the North Sea to the northeast and the Irish Sea to the south. It also contains more than 790 islands, principally in the archipelagos of the Hebrides and the Northern Isles. Most of the population, including the capital Edinburgh, is concentrated in the Central Belt, the plain between the Scottish Highlands and the Southern Uplands, in the Scottish Lowlands. Scotland is divided into 32 administrative subdivisions or local authorities, known as council areas. 20. Glasgow City is the largest council area in terms of population, with Highland being the largest in terms of area. Limited self-governing power, covering matters such as education, social services and roads and transportation, is devolved from the Scottish Government to each subdivision. 20. Scotland is the second largest country in the United Kingdom, and accounted for 8.3% of the population in 2012. The Kingdom of Scotland emerged as an independent sovereign state in the 9th century and continued to exist until 1707. By inheritance in 1603, James VI of Scotland became King of England and Ireland, thus forming a personal union of the three kingdoms. Scotland subsequently entered into a political union with the Kingdom of England on 1 May 1707 to create the new Kingdom of Great Britain. The union also created the Parliament of Great Britain, which succeeded both the Parliament of Scotland and the Parliament of England. In 1801, the Kingdom of Great Britain entered into a political union with the Kingdom of Ireland to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. In 1922, the Irish Free State seceded from the United Kingdom, leading to the latter being officially renamed the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland in 1927. Within Scotland, the monarchy of the United Kingdom has continued to use a variety of styles, titles and other royal symbols of statehood specific to the pre-Union Kingdom of Scotland. The legal system within Scotland has also remained separate from those of England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Scotland constitutes a distinct jurisdiction in both public and private law. 25. The continued existence of legal, educational, religious and other institutions distinct from those in the remainder of the UK have all contributed to the continuation of Scottish culture and national identity since the 1707 incorporating union with England. In 1999, a Scottish Parliament was re-established in the form of a devolved unicameral legislature comprising 129 members, having authority over many areas of domestic policy. The head of the Scottish Government is the First Minister of Scotland, who is supported by the Deputy First Minister of Scotland. 28. Scotland is represented in the United Kingdom Parliament by 59 MPs. It is also a member of the British-Irish Council, sending 5 members of the Scottish Parliament to the British-Irish Parliamentary Assembly. 30, as well as being part of the Joint Ministerial Committee, represented by the First Minister. Scotland comes from Scotti, the Latin name for the Gaels. Philip Freeman has speculated on the likelihood of a group of raiders adopting a name from an Indo-European root, Scot, citing the parallel in Greek skotos, meaning darkness, gloom. The late Latin word Scotia, land of the Gaels, was initially used to refer to Ireland. 33, and likewise in early Old English Scotland was used for Ireland. By the 11th century at the latest, Scotia was being used to refer to Gaelic-speaking Scotland north of the River Forth, alongside Albania or Albany, both derived from the Gaelic Alba. The use of the words Scots and Scotland to encompass all of what is now Scotland became common in the late Middle Ages. The first written reference to Scotland was in 320 BC by Greek sailor Pytheas, who called the northern tip of Britain Orcas, the source of the name of the Orkney Islands. During the first millennium BC, the society changed dramatically to a chiefdom model, as consolidation of settlement led to the concentration of wealth and underground stores of surplus food. The Roman conquest of Britain was never completed, and most of modern Scotland was not brought under Roman political control. 40. The first Roman incursion into Scotland occurred in 79 AD, when Agricola invaded Scotland. He defeated a Caledonian army at the Battle of Mons Graupius in 83 AD. 37. 12 After the Roman victory, Roman forts were briefly set along the Gask Ridge close to the Highland line, but by 3 years after the battle, the Roman armies had withdrawn to the southern uplands. Remains of Roman forts established in the 1st century have been found as far north as the Murray Firth. 40. By the reign of the Roman Emperor Trajan, r. 98 to 117, Roman control had lapsed to Britain south of a line between the River Tyne and the Solway Firth. Along this line, Trajan's successor Hadrian, r. 117 to 138, erected Hadrian's Wall in northern England, and the Limes Britannicus became the northern border of the Roman Empire. 43-44. The Roman influence on the southern part of the country was considerable, and they introduced Christianity to Scotland. The Antonine Wall was built from 142 at the order of Hadrian's successor Antoninus Pius, r. 138 to 161, defending the Roman part of Scotland from the unadministered part of the island, north of a line between the Firth of Clyde and the Firth of Forth. The successful Roman invasion of Caledonia 208 to 210 was undertaken by emperors of the imperial Severan dynasty in response to the breaking of treaty by the Caledonians in 197, but permanent conquest of the whole of Great Britain was forestalled by the death of the senior emperor Septimius Severus, r. 193 to 211, while on campaign at Eboracum, York, and the Caledonians were again in revolt in 210 to 211. Forts erected by the Roman army of the Severan campaign were placed near those established by Agricola and were clustered at the mouths of the glens in the highlands. The mainland of Scotland comprises the northern third of the landmass of the island of Great Britain, which lies off the northwest coast of continental Europe. The total area is 30,414 square miles, 78,772 kilometers 2, comparable to the size of the Czech Republic. Scotland's only land border is with England, and runs for 60 miles 96 kilometers, between the basin of the River Tweed on the east coast and the Solway Firth in the west. The Atlantic Ocean borders the west coast and the North Sea is to the east. The island of Ireland lies only 13 miles 21 kilometers from the southwestern peninsula of Kintyre. Norway is 190 miles 305 kilometers to the east, and the Faroe Islands 168 miles 270 kilometers to the north. The territorial extent of Scotland is generally that established by the 1237 Treaty of York between Scotland and the Kingdom of England 130, and the 1266 Treaty of Perth between Scotland and Norway 23. Important exceptions include the Isle of Man, which, having been lost to England in the 14th century, is now a crown dependency outside of the United Kingdom. The island groups Orkney and Shetland, which were acquired from Norway in 1472, and Berwick upon Tweed, lost to England in 1482. The geographical centre of Scotland lies a few miles from the village of Newtonmore in Badenoch. Rising to 1,344 metres, 4,409 feet, above sea level, Scotland's highest point is the summit of Ben Nevis, in Loch Harbour, while Scotland's longest river, the River Tay, flows for a distance of 118 miles, 190 kilometres. Scotland's wildlife is typical of the northwest of Europe, although several of the larger mammals such as the lynx, brown bear, wolf, elk and walrus were hunted to extinction in historic times. There are important populations of seals and internationally significant nesting grounds for a variety of seabirds such as gannets. The golden eagle is something of a national icon. The population of Scotland at the 2001 census was 5,062,011. This rose to 5,295,400. The highest ever, at the 2011 census. The most recent ONS estimate, for mid-2019, was 5,463,300. Although Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland, the largest city is Glasgow, which has just over 584,000 inhabitants. The Greater Glasgow conurbation, with a population of almost 1.2 million, is home to nearly a quarter of Scotland's population. The Central Belt is where most of the main towns and cities are located, including Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee, and Perth. Scotland's only major city outside the Central Belt is Aberdeen. The Scottish Lowlands host 80% of the total population, where the Central Belt accounts for 3.5 million people. Scotland has a Western-style open mixed economy closely linked with the rest of the UK and the wider world. Traditionally, the Scottish economy was dominated by heavy industry underpinned by shipbuilding in Glasgow, coal mining and steel industries. Petroleum-related industries associated with the extraction of North Sea oil have also been important employers from the 1970s, especially in the northeast of Scotland. Deindustrialisation during the 1970s and 1980s saw a shift from a manufacturing focus towards a more service-oriented economy. Scotland's gross domestic product, GDP, including oil and gas produced in Scottish waters, was estimated at £150 billion for the calendar year 2012. 282. In 2014, Scotland's per capita GDP was one of the highest in the EU. 283. As of April 2019, the Scottish unemployment rate was 3.3%, below the UK's overall rate of 3.8%, and the Scottish employment rate was 75.9%. Edinburgh is the financial services centre of Scotland, with many large finance firms based there, including Lloyds Banking Group, owners of HBOS, the government-owned Royal Bank of Scotland and Standard Life. Edinburgh was ranked 15th in the list of world financial centres in 2007, but fell to 37th in 2012, following damage to its reputation 285, and in 2016 was ranked 56th out of 86. 286, its status had returned to 17th by 2020. Whisky is one of Scotland's more known goods of economic activity. Exports increased by 87% in the decade to 2012 and were valued at £4.3 billion in 2013, which was 85% of Scotland's food and drink exports. It supports around 10,000 jobs directly and 25,000 indirectly. It may contribute £400 to £682 million to Scotland. Scottish cuisine has distinctive attributes and recipes of its own but shares much with wider British and European cuisine as a result of local and foreign influences, both ancient and modern. Traditional Scottish dishes exist alongside international foodstuffs brought about by migration. Scotland's natural larder of game, dairy products, fish, fruit, and vegetables is the chief factor in traditional Scots cooking, with a high reliance on simplicity and a lack of spices from abroad, as these were historically rare and expensive. Urn brew is the most common Scottish carbonated soft drink, often described as Scotland's other national drink after whisky. During the late Middle Ages and early modern era, French cuisine played a role in Scottish cookery due to cultural exchanges brought about by the Auld Alliance, especially during the reign of Mary, Queen of Scots. Mary, on her return to Scotland, brought an entourage of French staff who are considered responsible for revolutionising Scots cooking and for some of Scotland's unique food terminology. With the modern game of golf originating in 15th-century Scotland, the country is promoted as the home of golf. To many golfers, the old course in the Fife town of St Andrews, an ancient links course dating to before 1552, is considered a site of pilgrimage. In 1764, the standard 18-hole golf course was created at St Andrews when members modified the course from 22 to 18 holes. The world's oldest golf tournament, and golf's first major, is the Open Championship, which was first played on 17 October 1860 at Prestwick Golf Club, in Ayrshire, Scotland, with Scottish golfers winning the earliest majors, 399. There are many other famous golf courses in Scotland, including Carnoustie, Gleneagles, Muirfield, and Royal Troon. Scotland's primary sources for energy are provided through renewable energy, 61.8%, nuclear, 25.7%, and fossil fuel generation, 10.9%. In Scotland, 98.6% of all electricity used was from renewable sources. This is minus net exports. The Scottish Government has a target to have the equivalent of 50% of the energy for Scotland's heat, transport and electricity consumption to be supplied from renewable sources by 2030. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe for more random knowledge.